Thanks everyone for joining. It's a pleasure to talk to you today about this new project that we've been working on for the past couple of months, MQ-Ansible. So first of all, my name is Mo. I work with the developer experience team in the IBM MQ department. So in a nutshell, we act as the voice of developers. We produce MQ online assets from tutorials, video content, documentations, and more, in addition to building learning paths that teaches the fundamentals and the best practices of IBM MQ. So our work essentially is to support new and existing IBM MQ developers, make it really fun and easy for them to get started with IBM MQ and to better their experience along the way. And in fact, we are currently finalizing a new MQ asset on IBM Developer about MQ-Ansible, what you will be learning about today, in which we're positioning it as a new deployment option for IBM MQ on VMs and AWS. So without further ado, let's get started. And you're probably wondering, what is MQ-Ansible? So MQ-Ansible is an ongoing project that started pretty much as a grad's hustle a couple of months ago in the MQ department at IBM Hersley. And it's now an external open source IBM MQ offering. So it fundamentally automates the deployment and configuration of IBM MQ. Ansible, for those who are not familiar with the technology, is pretty much an open source IT automation tool that automates the provisioning, configuration management, and applications deployment. So it consists of something called a playbook, and this playbook is written in YAML. And the playbook includes a set of roles that consists of a set of tasks which are automatically executed once you run the playbook. So in addition to having the ability of configuring custom modules that supports your custom automation use cases. So before we dive deeper into the project, I would like to introduce you to Andre. Andre is our user persona that was pretty much leading the design process during the development of this project. So mainly to understand the problem that Andre is facing, and you probably can relate to as well. And let's see how MQ-Ansible made his life much, much easier. So Andre is a skilled app developer that's working on multiple applications, and he needs to connect his applications in the cloud. So seamless integration between his apps is crucial to ensure smooth user experience and efficient communication between the different components of his apps, pretty much. So to achieve this, Andre opts for IBM MQ, our powerful messaging middleware that will facilitate communication between his apps. And he starts deploying IBM MQ manually on his virtual machines to create this desired messaging environment. But soon enough, Andre realizes while he's using MQ that the process is really time consuming, and he encounters a couple of technical challenges along the way. And these difficulties kind of slow him down and slows his progress down and hinder his ability to focus really on the app development itself. And the fact is, Andre is not alone. IBM MQ's deployment can really be challenging sometimes, and especially if you're a first-time user or when you're deploying MQ on multiple machines at once. So it's a process of numerous steps, and it's not a plug-and-play kind of installation. And we've noticed this when we first joined MQ and we were playing with MQ for the first time. So in order to get MQ deployed on your machine, you will have to go through a process of steps, from downloading MQ from the web to installing it, to configuring the users, to setting up the environment and more. So this really all can be done by running different commands, and it can take hours sometimes from your time if you're facing challenges or if you're deploying MQ on multiple machines. So if you go online on the different messaging websites and forums, you will notice for sure that IBM MQ is the preferred choice for most people who are looking for an enterprise messaging solution. But as all technologies, there's always a room for improvement. And in this case, the initial deployment of IBM MQ isn't probably the fastest. And again, especially for first-time users or for developers that are not as experienced in MQ as others. And that's literally what we try to achieve with IBM MQ-Ansible. So therefore, we found this need of automating the process, and we took it even further by thinking, what if we can deploy IBM MQ in just one command? And that's how MQ-Ansible was born. So MQ-Ansible offers this powerful and efficient solution for deploying and configuring and managing IBM MQ. So it offers all of that without really sacrificing the inherent benefits and features of the technology. So by utilizing MQ-Ansible, developers can leverage the full capabilities of IBM MQ while enjoying the advantages of automation and standardization. So some of these benefits include the ease of deployment. So MQ-Ansible simplifies the deployment process by automating the installation and setup of IBM MQ. So this really eliminates the need of manual intervention, reducing the time and effort required to deploy IBM MQ, which enables users to really and quickly establish a messaging infrastructure for their applications. In addition to that, it offers this flexible configuration. So while MQ-Ansible streamlines the configuration process with standardized configuration process and templates, it also offers this flexibility to customize configurations based on your own requirements and use cases. So this enables developers, for instance, to tailor the messaging infrastructure to suit their unique needs, while still benefiting from the efficiency and the consistency, of course, that's provided by the automation. And last but not least, it also offers this seamless management. So by leveraging MQ-Ansible, developers can really efficiently manage their IBM MQ environment through automation, which includes tasks such as troubleshooting and updating configurations, which can be performed with ease using MQ-Ansible. So these predefined rules and tasks, we all have them ready in our repo, which I will be showing you in a bit. But this really allows developers pretty much to maintain a stable and reliable messaging infrastructure with minimal manual intervention. And it's worth mentioning that MQ-Ansible is designed to complement IBM MQ and not to abstract its core functionality. So as a result, developers can still take full advantage of this robust messaging solution with all of its reliability and features and security, while also ensuring that they can automate it and make their life way faster and easier while they're getting started with it. So in a nutshell, MQ-Ansible enables developers to easily and swiftly and automatically deploy, configure, and manage IBM MQ without losing access to the product's essential features and benefits. By combining the power of IBM MQ and Ansible, we offer this standardized configurations through this solution. Users can create a resilient and high-performing messaging infrastructure that really meets their needs and different requirements. So one of the key aspects of MQ-Ansible is that it really aligns with and enhances DevOps practices. So promoting increased efficiency and collaboration within development teams and operation teams is the core of DevOps. And by integrating MQ-Ansible into their workflows, teams can experience multiple benefits. And this includes, for instance, faster deployment cycles. Again, automation is at the core of DevOps. And with MQ-Ansible, developers and operations teams can automate the deployment and configuration of IBM MQ. This accelerates the deployment cycles, allowing teams to bring new features and updates to the market more quickly, while reducing the likelihood of errors during the deployment process of IBM MQ. In addition to that, this improves collaboration. So as MQ-Ansible uses this standardized templates for queue manager configurations, both developers and operation teams, they can really work from a shared understanding of the messaging infrastructure. So this fosters this a better communication and collaboration between the two teams. It definitely reduces the conflicts, the potential ones, and the misunderstandings that can arise from inconsistent configurations. And last but not least, continuous integration and continuous delivery. So MQ-Ansible can be seamlessly integrated into existing CI/CD pipelines, ensuring that IBM MQ is constantly deployed and configured with each new build. So this integration allows for a more streamlined deployment, if you want to say, enabling teams to catch and address issues early on in the development cycle, and ensuring that the messaging infrastructure remains stable and reliable. So basically, incorporating MQ-Ansible into DevOps practices significantly improves the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the development and operations teams. So this alignment results in a faster deployment cycles, better collaboration, as we just said, and a seamless CI/CD delivery, which ultimately leads to a more resilient and high-performing messaging infrastructure, which is the goal of MQ-Ansible. So the way
we have a question in the chat. Would you like to address that now or after at the end?
We can do either way. Up to you.
Let's do it now. Honda, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question, or we could read it off the chat? Do you see the chat, Mo?
So long-time fan of MQ, been around since God knows 30 years ago. Anyway, while I applaud the work that you're doing with getting MQ queue managers deployed in an automated fashion, really helps. What I would really be interested in understanding is you're going to be taking this work and moving it forward with the MFT agents, because those agents are incredibly powerful when used correctly, and they effectively play the role of MQ applications that can go out there and do some very interesting things in a serverless type architecture with MQ connectivity, binding all of these different agents.
Right. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Honestly, this whole project started a couple of months ago, and we have this roadmap internally that we're going to be adding more and more components to MQ-Ansible. So at the moment, and you're going to see that in a bit, you can create a queue manager with standardized configurations. You can start it, and you can have a web console as well. But we do have this roadmap in which we're going to be adding more and more flexibility to the configurations. And what you just mentioned, I'll be definitely keeping it in consideration, and I'll be passing it off to the team. So yeah, I appreciate that. But as we go in the presentation, you will start seeing the value of it more and more, and we're going to have a live demo now at the end for you to see really how it works. But just keep in mind also that this is not an old project. This has been only going on for a couple of months, and it's been externalized only for 2 months now. So we do have this roadmap that we're working on, and we will be extending it more and more to other operating systems, and we'll be adding more features. Okay, so let's carry on. So we talked about Andre, his problem, and how frustrated he was when he got started with IBM MQ, and he was trying to get started with it. And now, Andre, with MQ-Ansible, he can now automate the entire process. He can chill on the couch while the automation is automatically being done for him. It significantly reduces his time and effort required for the deployment. And it also helps him overcome the potential challenges that he would have probably gone throughout the deployment. So overall, we are essentially tackling the challenge that existing and future IBM clients and developers are facing, which is really how to get IBM MQ deployed in the least time and effort possible so that developers can maximize their time and focus on the business logic of their applications rather than worrying about deployment issues. So MQ-Ansible allows you to, and allows developers like Andre to deploy multiple queue managers across numerous VMs, just with a few simple commands. And really that's the value here, is that you don't have to SSH into every single virtual machine. You can just simply list them all, and you're going to see in a bit how this is done. And then with just a few commands, you're going to be able to get MQ deployed on all of them. So this flexibility helps you easily scale up or down the messaging infrastructure as the demands of the application change. And also MQ-Ansible's ability to automate the deployment across various environments ensures that you can maintain a consistent messaging infrastructure even if the number of the VMs or the applications grow. Also, as mentioned before, you can create these standardized templates for the queue manager configurations, which you can then apply for all of the instances of IBM Q. Then this uniformity and standardization not only simplifies the management and troubleshooting, but also minimizes the risk of human errors while going through this deployment process and you're running the commands manually. So as a result, you can rely on a more robust and reliable messaging infrastructure to support your interconnected applications. And last but not least, and I keep emphasizing on this point, but really it allows you to automate these time-consuming tasks associated with deploying and configuring IBM Q. It can really significantly, and we've seen this happening with developers now that are using MQ-Ansible as their default and standard way of deploying MQ. The time spent on this repetitive manual process has been reduced. It gives you more time to focus on your applications, on the business logic, on the functionality, while MQ is being deployed automatically on the side on your VMs and machines. So this increased efficiency really allows developers and their teams as well to be more agile and responsive to changing requirements, ultimately leading to the faster development cycles, of course, and more competitive edge in the market. So if you want to put like both deployments side by side, if you really want to see the value of MQ-Ansible, and if you've attempted to deploy MQ manually before, you will see that if you want to SSH into the VM manually and run the commands one by one, it could potentially take you from 15 to 25 minutes. It could take you much longer if you face technical challenges, if you're not as experienced with MQ. On the other hand, MQ-Ansible, the deployment can really be done in just 2 to 5 minutes, slightly longer sometimes if your interconnection and speed isn't that great, and we will see why in a minute. But as discussed, this mitigates the potential human errors that can happen, which can literally take you hours sometimes to figure out the simplest problems. So having these commands already predefined for you, you just have to connect your VMs and then everything is done automatically, will make sure that your life is much, much easier. So run it once, deploy it on many. That's the slogan that we use here in the team. So the more machines you have that you want to deploy MQ on, the more you will find the value of MQ-Ansible. So Ansible allows you to list as many machines as you want in something called an inventory file. It's written in an ini, or the extension is .ini. And once you run that main YAML playbook, which consists of all of the roles, MQ will be deployed on all of them with standardized queue manager configurations. So this mitigates the need of having to SSH into every single one of them, deploying MQ, then having to SSH into another one. So technically, if you have 5 virtual machines or 10 virtual machines, this could be saving you literally hours and hours of work. And here we can see like the regular process of deploying MQ. It starts with downloading MQ, to setting up the users, to installing MQ, then to setting up the environment. And each step of the way, there are multiple tasks that you'll need to go through. So imagine how many hours you'll be saving yourself if you actually use MQ-Ansible to deploy MQ on many of your VMs. So it's important now also to mention a couple of recent updates. So MQ-Ansible is now fully tested for use with Amazon Web Services. So as shown here, we have a Travis build. The playbooks will now run to install and set up MQ on AWS containers alongside our Linux VMs. So you can scale up the size of deployment as well as the range of machine types. We have also recently implemented the MQ Web Console with Ansible roles. So your deployed VMs can be accessed and configured further in a more friendly way. Once you have MQ deployed, you'll be able to access the web console, and then you'll be able to have this more visual and user graphical way of managing your queue manager and MQ objects. And recently, we started working on extending the support to more operating systems. So now we support Ubuntu, but we're also working on Windows, Linux, and AIX, in addition to other operating systems. This is happening internally now, and we have a group of brilliant developers working to make this happen as soon as possible. So this means that soon enough, no matter what operating system that you use, provided that it's one of the popular ones that you are using, you'll be able to leverage the efficiency and the automation of MQ-Ansible. So you can easily clone and get started automating right away. IBM.biz/MQ-Ansible. It has been external on the github.com IBM messaging community and repo for the past 2 months. So you can go to the IBM messaging repo, look for MQ-Ansible, or just go to that link, and literally anyone can clone it and use it to deploy MQ within just a few minutes. We have also a very, very comprehensive README file that contains a step-by-step tutorial on how can you get started with MQ-Ansible. And it also includes a couple of troubleshooting guidance in case you encounter any challenges. We had our fair share of challenges while we're working on this project, so we documented all of this in this README file. If there is anything that went wrong during the playbook run, just make sure that you refer back to the README file, and you'll be able to see some of the top challenges and their solutions. So just head over to IBM.biz/MQ-Ansible, and you can get started right away. So I've told you about MQ-Ansible, the value, why do you really need it, and the challenges that we're trying to tackle here. And you're probably eager enough now to see it happening in action. So once you get started with MQ-Ansible, of course, you're going to go and you're going to have to clone it from the repo. And then once you clone it, you're going to have this directory. And you will be able to see that there are multiple files, but essentially we are interested in this directory, which is, if I do pwd, you will see it's /Ansible collection /IBM MQ, which has all of the YAML files that will basically run the playbook. So in the main IBM MQ.YAML playbook, we have the hosts, and we can call it anything. We have VMs here, for instance. If we go to the inventory.ini, we should also refer to our VMs to the same name. So we can call it VMs, we can call it anything, but we need to make sure that it's consistent with the name in the main playbook, because it's going to go through all of the virtual machines or the machines under that group and run the playbook against them. So here we're just adding our SSH connection. And by the way, the password is changed, so don't try to SSH to that virtual machine. But as you can see, now we're trying to SSH to that virtual machine just to confirm that we don't have MQ installed yet. So as soon as we SSH, we're going to run DSP MQ-ver just to confirm that we don't have MQ installed at the moment on that machine. And I copy the same IP address for you to confirm that it's the same machine that we just added to the inventory list. And that inventory list is where we add all of our VMs. So we just confirmed that it's not installed. We can go back to the main YAML file and then this is the one command that you have to run in order to get MQ deployed. And no matter you have one VM or you have 10 VMs, this command will be all that you need to run in order to have all of the VMs listed in the inventory.ini file, to have all of the VM literally have MQ deployed in no time. So we're also accepting the license in the command. Make sure that you do that. But now we're going to leave it running, and you're going to see how long it's going to take. And it's worth mentioning that once we reach the download MQ step, it's when really your internet connection is going to depend on how fast this is going to go. So since the MQ package, it's not that small, pretty much it can take from 1 minute to a couple of minutes for it to download. So it really depends on your internet connection. So there we go. So now we're in Hersley. And this is not completely live, but I recorded it here. And it was quick enough to get the tar package downloaded in a very short period of time. If you're using a home connection, it's not that quick. It can take slightly longer. But it hasn't been a minute, and we're now extracting the MQ from the tar.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the playbook check whether it's installed before trying to install it?
It will. If it's already installed on the VM, it will skip that stage. We've already tested that before, and that's already built in our role. So if it's already there in like on the VM, if it already identified that same version of MQ, then it will not run that step. But if it's a different version, for instance, it might download that package. And it's worth mentioning that you can also change the version of MQ at the moment from the role. So if you want 9.3.2 or a different version, you can also specify that. But again, if it's already installed, it will be skipping that step. So as you can see here, it finished the deployment, and it literally started right away with starting the web console. So now you don't only have this MQ deployed on your machine, but you also have the web console up and ready. And there you go, we're done. So now we're SSHing into our virtual machine just to make sure that we have MQ installed. It took literally just a couple of minutes to get it up and ready. And now we're SSHing into the same VM. And if we do DSP MQ ver, we will be able to see that we have IBM MQ deployed, just like that. So if you also if you also run DSP MQ, we have two queue managers. The second queue manager is something I added by modifying the role by simply just adding QM2, but by default you get only one queue manager. And if we try to access the web console, and of course remember to add HTTPS at the top or in the beginning, slash IBMQ/console on the 9443 port, we will be able to access it. And
does it also create the route?
So
I have a
at the
question
moment,
here. I have a question here. The base install that you had done, it only goes under opt-MQM. Let's assume I'm upgrading the MQ version on my VM, which cannot be destroyed. Is there an opportunity to pass in the base install location? Like by default, the role installs under opt-MQM and var-MQM.
yeah.
I have 9.2 and 9.3, so I put it under opt-MQM 9.2, and I put it under opt-MQM 9.3.
So if you have some experience with Ansible, or if you'd like to explore the roles, you can change the default directory path for the tar to be downloaded in. You can also change different kind of things like the version, for instance. So you have this flexibility, but at the moment we're continuing with this work to add more and more flexibility with the things that you can change with the MQ objects that you can manage as well. But if you have a different path, you can definitely be able to change it from the roles. So again, with the more work that we're doing to extend it to more operating systems, we're going to have different roles for different operating system based on the paths and based on what each operating system actually requires. So if you're using Windows, if you're using Ubuntu, Linux, AX, you'll be able to get this sorted out with the minimal changes needed, honestly. because the whole point of this is to make it as easy as possible for you to deploy MQ. But of course, it won't hurt to have this flexibility with the configurations and with the things that you can manage and change as well. So just like that, we've literally got MQ deployed in no time, and we were able to access the web console and even send or put a message on the queue, just like that. And now I'd like to invite you, if you have some MQ experience or Ansible experience and you'd like to contribute towards this project, because as you can see, as much as it's extremely valuable and its impact is high on making your life way easier, but there's still a long way to go, right? We need to manage more MQ objects, and we want to make sure that it's extended to as many operating systems as possible. So you can contribute to our GitHub repo. We have a contributing guide in which you can follow and make sure that you also read the contributing license agreement. Again, if there is a feature you'd like to add, if there is an operating system that you have in mind that we did not mention or we're not currently prioritizing, feel free to go to ibm.biz/mq-ansible, go through the contributing guide, and please feel free to suggest your changes, because we do also have this traversable that will make sure that your changes will not affect the main repo, basically, just in case anything goes wrong, and we will have to review it as well before anything goes live. But we would love to work with you, would love to talk with you as well about whatever ideas you have to improve this offering. But that's pretty much it. That's MQ-Ansible, and that's the value it brings, and I really hope you enjoyed learning more about it. And now please feel free to ask any additional questions that you have.